Hey guys, Mike here. In this video, I'm going to teach you guys how to input buttons with perfect timing for whatever combos or parrying or anything that requires perfect button presses. So why would you want to do this instead of just spamming a button? If you just spam a button, some inputs require precise timing, so you won't be able to execute the move. Another reason why button spamming is bad is because you may overcommit to the combo when you want to do something else. And another reason why you want to have perfect inputs, especially with single button presses, just hit the button once instead of keep spamming the button, is because it allows you to focus on other things in the fight. All right, so this is how you do it. Let's take the sword and shield, for example. So one move you can do with sword and shield is lateral return. Now, the nice thing about this move, and the reason why I'm using it as an example here, is because you can do it fast or you can do it slow. So it's very clear in telling you whether you hit a perfect input or you didn't hit a perfect input. If you hit it too early, the second hit just doesn't come out. If you hit it too late, you get a slowed lateral return like that. But if you hit it perfect, then it looks really clean like that. And the goal is to get this 100% consistent such that it's effortless to you and you don't have to think about it. Okay, so what you're looking for is some part on your hunter that indicates to you when to press the button. And this is going to be different for everyone because everyone has different reaction times. So one thing I like to do is look at the feet, because the feet move slower compared to the rest of the body, so it's a little easier to track. So let's take this as an example. If I just look at the arms, it's not really clear when I should press the button. But if I look at the feet, it's actually very clear when I should press the button. And that's when the feet pivot to the right. See how both the feet are kind of rotating to the right when the hunter has to pivot? And when they rotate to the right, that's my cue on when to press the second input. So another reason why I look at the feet is because the sword is moving so fast, I don't know exactly when to press it. And when I try to use the sword as a signal, I end up pressing it too late most of the time. So I get the delayed swing. But if I look at the feet, I already know when the hunter is committed to the second swing, and it's just a really easy input. So the next thing you want to do is test your consistency with the signal. So say I establish that I'm using the feet as a signal on when to press the second input. I'm just going to test it. And I'm going to make mental notes on how consistent I am with this. And if my consistency is like less than 95%, that's not a good signal that you should use for the input. If that's the case, you have to try find a different signal on the hunter that will let you hit the input consistently. And you can start to default to the arms, the shoulders, the hips, many things you can look at. All right, once you have established a fairly consistent way to hit the input, the next thing is make sure it's consistent for all camera views. So the typical camera view, you're going to be looking at the hunter from behind. So this is pretty simple, right? But that's not always the case. Now, while the behind camera view is probably going to be like 70% of your view, it's definitely important to be consistent with that view, but you want to also practice different camera views as well for when those situation arises. So I'm still looking at the feet. I still have a clear shot at the feet on when it pivots. And the nice thing about looking at the pivot, it doesn't matter what view I look at. I can see the pivot from behind, from the side, from this side, from this side. Consistent. And let's try this side. Try this side. And let's try this side. Another reason why you want to have perfect inputs is because for some moves, for example, like the guard and back hop, if you miss input, you actually just straight up fail it and you do a guard slash, which is not what you want, right? Instead, you want to do a back slash. And you want to do it as fast as possible too. Now, this is one thing that's exclusive to Monster Hunter. And with Monster Hunter, when you hit something, your character actually slows down a little while the sword is going through the monster. This is not an issue because we're still using the same signal for us to press the input, and that's when the feet rotate. So even though it is a little slower when you actually hit the monster, I'm still using the signal to be very confident in my input press and to get very reliable, consistent, perfect input press all the time. Again, I can do it from other angles, doesn't matter. If I whiff, doesn't matter because I'm just looking at the feet. Another thing is you're not really going to be staring at the feet in the middle of a hunt to do this, right? But you're identifying the feet as the signal, and eventually you'll start to use your peripheral vision to see the motion of the feet moving. So you start to develop these mental shortcuts for the signal that you developed. See how perfect I can input that every time? I don't press it too early, but I get this really crisp 1-2. And you have to be able to do this all the time. Now, obviously, if you're playing a game casually, you don't have to do this, right? But if you're trying to take your gaming to the next level, you want to be hitting perfect inputs without spamming the button, and you want to be able to do it very consistently. Being able to do this shows a clear mastery of the weapon. See, I can do this from all camera angles, and I can do it even when I hit the monster or I'm with the monster. Like, it doesn't matter, I still have a perfect input. All camera angles, look at that. Clean. No extra presses either, and I can do this while talking. Clean, fast hits, trying to get as much DPS as possible. Perfect inputs. Another reason you gotta do this too is because this is your very common 1-2 that you're doing, so you want to be able to hit this consistently because you're going to be doing it a lot. I can do it from top down too. That one was actually a little slow. So you're practicing all camera angles. Feels a little different doing it from bird's eye view. You have to be able to do a bird's eye view too, because if you're trying to nail positioning for a topple punisher, you have to know where you're standing. And usually to do that perfectly, you want to switch the view to a bird's eye view. So I have bird's eye view in all 4 directions. I'm looking left, top. Now some moves, this isn't really required because the buffer is so high that you can get away with not getting a perfect input. But like I said, there are moves in every weapon moveset that require precise timing. Greatsword is another great example of a 1-2 that you gotta master, except it's a little different. It's not a lateral return. It's actually the overhead slash roll. Now, when I roll with Greatsword, I can delay the roll. See how late I can delay that roll? But you don't want to do that with Greatsword unless you're trying to iframe something, because to master Greatsword, you need to cut away all instances of time that are delaying you from getting into your next attack, because Greatsword is just so slow. That's its weakness. So if you can mitigate this weakness by having perfect inputs, that just straight up makes you a better Greatsword player than other Greatsword players, because the fractions of a second that you save really matter. So with Greatsword, the time to roll is when the sword lands on the ground. And this one you can't press early. You literally have to wait till the sword lands on the ground. This is what happens if you press it early. Now, Greatsword is interesting. The feet are actually not a good signal of when to roll, because the feet actually land before the sword lands. And if you try to use the feet, you will probably press the input too early and you'll just not roll. So it's really when the sword lands. And the sword has a nice sound effect that helps you get that down. Another reason why you want to use the sword too is because when you actually hit something with the sword, your hit is going to be delayed a little bit just from hitting the monster. So you really have to focus when the sword hits the ground, and then you can roll. It should look like this. Again, it's when the sword hits the ground. And we're not spamming the roll button here. There's no way for us to mess it up because we just know it so well. We do a single button press, we're not spamming. The nice thing about Greatsword too is because the trajectory of this Greatsword is so, not slow, but very steady. It allows us to track it. And it's a very good visual signal on when to start rolling. Anyways, hope that helps you perfect your timing for button inputs. This applies to Monster Hunter, also applies to literally every other video game on Earth. If you want to try to get better at that video game, just apply these concepts to those games as well. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.